Welcome to Sapien Analysis.
I think we have talked about this as well very briefly, that how you actually came to science. And you also told me that by the time you went to the college, you already knew about how what you're going to do. So in my experience, I have taught many students, and most of them, when they are in freshman in college, this is a little bit different question compared to, what your expertise in. But I think this is your life experience that I'm talking about, that they are very confused. They don't know what to do. And they always say that I'm figuring it out. So that's what they actually think. It didn't happen in my case. I always kind of knew that what I'm going to do. Not particularly brain cancer, but in general, like in the science. Do you have any suggestion that how students can find out their path? Because if they find out their path early in the days, then it's always better for them to be more successful because they have enough time in their hand and all those things. So do you have any suggestions on that?
Well, I'm smiling because I'm going to disagree with you.
I think we have talked about that as well.
Yeah, but I think that there are many factors that go into that.
Mhm.
I think that we can help children by encouraging them in their areas of strength, because you never know what something will turn into.
Right.
The kid who loves to constantly be drawing may end up being an architect. And so encouraging children to do what interests them, and even if it doesn't make them a star, even if it doesn't make them an academic success, but it's something that they're good at, is certainly one way to help them discover their passion, to discover their interest. I think that in school, if you are lucky enough to have a talented teacher who really engages you in a subject, you might discover that that really interests you. And there are certainly some kids like yourself who know that they want to go into science, or they know they want to be a doctor, or they know they want to do something. But I think the grand majority of kids really don't know. And kind of how would you? First of all, their knowledge of what kinds of things to do out there are kind of limited to their experience, which is what? High school, right? Middle school. And they're not exposed to, for example, what are all the things people do when they work in a TV studio? Okay. What does it mean to be an audio engineer? How would you know that if you were in middle school? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so they don't necessarily know what's out there. I think having work opportunities for kids is a great thing to do, so that a child can, internships, say in middle school or high school, where you get to go somewhere and try out what's it like. When my daughter was in college, she'd always been what we call a fashionista. She was always way ahead of what was in fashion. And she went to work for a very famous designer who I will not name. And she was so talented at it, they ended up having her pull all the accessories for the photo shoots. And she came out of it and said, "I'm never working for a designer. They're all crazy." And then she went and worked for W Magazine, and which again writes about all this. And she said, "Well, I'm not doing that because it's really interesting. They don't make any money." So, so she had opportunities to explore her interests in the work world, okay, in real life situations, and discovered some of what she didn't want to do. And so I think giving kids real the opportunity to develop their passions, a chance to sort of experience real world working. If you have a child who's really interested in animals, can they they get to a certain age, can they work at a vet's? Can they be the one who helps give out animals, their exercise, or the one who, works with animals? Can you give kids a chance to sort of do that kind of thing?
Right.
But Dan Levinson wrote a wonderful book called Seasons of a Man's Life. And of course, we're talking about men, right? But the same
Right.
thing is true for women, which is you have all your interests, okay? You have interest in a lot of things. And as you get to your 20s, when you separate from home, you start to individuate and become a person and you explore what it is you like. So maybe my daughter explored being in fashion, or I explored, doing one thing or another. And it's kind of like Jacob and the coat of many colors in the Bible. You try things on.
Right.
And you say, well, what is it like if I go into this field? And you
Right.
go into the field,
Right.
and maybe you go to med school and it's an incredible success. Or maybe you go into med school and you absolutely hate it,
Right. Right.
And there are so many people who their career isn't like this. Their career is like this.
Right.
Because they are kind of trying things out and discovering that, well, I thought I wanted to be an engineer, but actually I'm much more interested in this other thing, and so the idea is you try out different things, and then you find something that seems to be satisfying for you, and you do that for a while, but then you get to a certain age, around 30, where, okay, I've tried all these things, and now I start really settling down. I do this, I live here, I'm in this kind of relationship, and you kind of choose a path. But then when you get to 40, you might discover that the path you chosen, okay, I'm successful, I made it as a lawyer, but I don't feel my life is very meaningful. And they go back and they train as social workers.
Right. Right.
So, I think there's a path of discovering what you're good at, discovering what interests you, discovering what it means to be in that situation and do that work. And so I think it's a lifelong process of growth that is there for many people. I know when I was in college, as I said, I wasn't good at writing, and I was, good at science. So I was told that's what I did. I remember my mother saying she's going to be a research biochemist if it kills her. And it nearly did, since I was spending 14 hours a week in lab.
Yeah.
But, when I graduated, I took a job, and I found it really interesting working with people and working with communities and exploring how people dealt with the drug problem. And then I was looking for another job, and someone said, you have to go to graduate school. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I had no idea what I wanted to go into graduate school. I didn't want to go to medicine because I was afraid I'd get sick.
Okay.
But, did I want to go into psychology, sociology, anthropology,
Right.
mental science, law? I mean, all of it interested me, right?
Right. Yeah.
Interested in, so I decided I would sit down and read the journals of all these different fields and see which one was the most interesting, and psychology won. So I got a PhD in psychology, but I certainly didn't come out of college with a clear sense of, oh, this is it.
Got it. Okay.
I got a job, and then I got to the point where, okay, how do I explore what's out there? And I explored it. But even in being a psychologist, I've done neuropsych testing. I've taught at the college level. I've written, I've given talks, I see patients, I do consulting, I do training. So I've had the opportunity to do a lot of different kinds of things. And so, the idea that when if you're a 6-year-old and you're a gifted musician, okay, I'm going to give you lessons in the violin and you're going to come out being Itzhak Perlman. That might be true for Itzhak Perlman, but it might not be true for another kid.
This video is brought to you by Allura Online. If you love our fantastic videos, guess what? Allura Online can create amazing content for you too. Want to elevate your brand with top-notch videos? Check out the Fiverr link in the description or send a private email for more details. Act now and snag some exclusive discounts. Don't miss out. Contact Allura Online today and take your content to the next level.